so Celtics fans, let's talk about that Magic game.
Yeah, the one where, well, they didn't exactly come out on top.
Yeah, definitely not the result we were expecting. A loss to the Magic. We're going to be diving deep into this NBC Sports Boston article, Celtics Magic recap, C's come up short in physical matchup, and I think you'll agree there are some interesting points here.
Yeah, totally. This was, on the surface, it looked like an easy win for Boston, should have been, but the Magic had different plans.
Right. And the article even calls it a physical matchup. So, like, were the Celtics just out hustled, or is there something else going on?
I think there's definitely more to the story. Yeah, the Magic were, they played really hard, but the Celtics also made some pretty uncharacteristic mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, for example, they had like 18 turnovers. That's way more than their average.
Wow, 18. That's a lot.
It is, yeah. And it wasn't just like simple mistakes. A lot of those turnovers led to fast breaks for the Magic. So like, giving the other team extra possessions, that's never good. It really changed, shifted the energy of the game.
So are you saying the Magic's physicality might have forced those turnovers? Like, it wasn't just the Celtics having an off night?
Yeah, I think that's a big factor. The Magic were really disruptive.
That makes sense. And I also remember reading that Jason Tatum was out for this one with a non-COVID illness.
Yeah.
How much do you think that impacted the game?
Well, it's hard to say definitively, but he's their leading scorer,
Oh,
right?
sure.
So, you take that away, it creates a big void on offense. And, other guys stepped up, but it just wasn't enough.
Okay, so missing their star player, a ton of turnovers, not a great recipe for success. But let's talk about the one bright spot, Jaylen Brown. 35 points. Wow. Was this just Brown being Brown, or was there something, different about his game with Tatum out?
This was definitely Brown stepping up, like taking charge. And it wasn't just the number of points, it was how he got them. He was aggressive, attacking the basket, getting to the free throw line. Really impressive to see.
So he was kind of filling that playmaker role, too, with Tatum gone. Not just scoring, but creating for others.
Exactly. You could see he was really trying to, like, take on that leadership role and fill the gap.
Did the Magic, did they do anything defensively to try and stop him? I mean, 35 points is huge.
Oh, yeah. They definitely tried. Double-teamed him, trapped him, all that. But Brown handled it well, didn't get rattled, still made smart decisions, and found ways to score.
That's what you want to see. Okay, so we've got a shorthanded Celtics team struggling with turnovers, but Brown's putting on a show. Let's talk about some other key moments from the game. The article mentions the Celtics shot pretty terribly from three-point range, like 8 for 32.
Oof. Yeah, that's not good.
Is that typical for them? Because
Yeah.
that seems really bad.
It's definitely below their average. They rely a lot on the three-pointer. It's a big part of their offense. So when those shots aren't falling, it kind of throws everything off. They have to, like, adjust their whole game plan, and it didn't work this time.
Yeah, you can't just rely on one thing all the time. You got to be able to adapt. Speaking of things that can throw a team off, there was that altercation with Kristaps Porzingis. What exactly happened there?
Right. So in the fourth quarter, Porzingis gets into it with two Magic players, Jalen Suggs and Goga Bitadze.
Wait, with two guys?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah. It was like I guess you could call it a triple threat confrontation. Lots of shoving, pushing, trash talk, the whole deal.
Okay, wow. A triple threat confrontation. That's a new one. So was this just like a heat of the moment thing, or is this something we should be concerned about?
It's hard to say for sure. I mean, the game was intense, right? So it's possible it was just an emotional reaction. But it does make you wonder about Porzingis, Like, does he tend to lose his cool under pressure? Could this be a sign of maybe some problems with team chemistry down the road?
Yeah, that's worth keeping an eye on for sure. Like a little crack in the armor, Let's see if it gets bigger or not. For now, though, let's talk about the Magic and how they actually managed to win this thing. I mean, they had 20 turnovers themselves, more than the Celtics even. So how did they still pull off the upset?
Well, it's interesting. They had their own mistakes, for sure. But overall, they were just so disciplined. Their physicality was a big factor, I think. They disrupted the Celtics' rhythm, forced them into those turnovers, and their defense was, like, suffocating. The Celtics could barely get a clean shot off.
So even with those mistakes, they had a game plan, and they stuck to it. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. They really took it to the Celtics, and they deserved to win.
Makes you wonder, did the Celtics maybe underestimate them? Could that be a problem down the road?
That's a great question, and it's something we should definitely talk about more. Yeah, it does make you think, like, did they look past the Magic? It's easy to do that, especially when you're a team with, like, championship expectations.
Yeah, you start thinking about those bigger games down the line, and maybe you lose focus on the opponent right in front of you.
Exactly. And this loss, maybe it's a wake-up call, a reminder that, in the NBA, anybody can beat anybody on any given night.
No autopilot allowed. Every game matters. But let's get back to those turnovers for a minute. You said they were a major problem for the Celtics. What specifically went wrong there? Was it just a lack of focus, or was there more to it than that?
I think it was a combination of things. Some of it was just, careless passes, trying to force the issue, making bad decisions. But you also got to give the Magic credit. Their defense was really disruptive. They were aggressive. They were physical. And they kind of forced the Celtics to play faster than they wanted to.
So it wasn't just the Celtics making mistakes. It was the Magic,
Yeah.
making them make mistakes.
Exactly. And the Magic's game plan was to make the Celtics uncomfortable, to get them out of their rhythm. And it worked.
So the Magic deserve credit for their defense. But what about the Celtics' offense? Beyond the turnovers, what else contributed to their struggles? I mean, the article mentions their poor three-point shooting, but is there more to it than that?
Well, the three-point shooting was definitely a factor. When the Celtics are hitting their threes, their offense is really tough to stop. But when those shots aren't falling, they can become a little bit predictable.
The Magic knew that.
Yeah, they were closing out hard on shooters, contesting every shot. They forced the Celtics to take tougher, more contested looks.
So the Magic weren't just playing good defense. They're playing smart defense.
Yeah.
They knew the Celtics' tendencies. That's impressive.
Absolutely. It speaks to their preparation, their scouting. They came into this game with a plan, and they executed it really well.
It kind of makes you wonder if the Celtics were caught off guard by the Magic's intensity and preparation. Do you think they underestimated their opponent?
I mean, it's possible. It's definitely something the Celtics will need to think about going forward. But I also think, we got to give credit to the Magic. They played a great game, and they deserve to win.
Yeah, for sure. We don't want to take anything away from the Magic's performance. They played with a lot of heart. But this game, I think it raises some important questions for the Celtics. How do they bounce back from this loss? How do they make sure they don't, fall into that trap of underestimating their opponents again?
Well, first and foremost, they need to acknowledge the areas where they need to improve. The turnovers are an obvious one. They need to be more careful with the ball, make smarter decisions.
Right. No more autopilot, like we talked about.
Exactly. They also need to find ways to diversify their offense. When the three-pointers aren't falling, they need to have other options. Attack the basket, get to the free throw line, create opportunities for each other.
So basically, they need to have a plan B. And maybe even a plan C.
Yeah, like having different tools in the toolbox.
All right. Different tools for different situations.
Yeah.
Okay, so addressing the turnovers, diversifying the offense, those are some tangible things they can work on. But what about the mental side of things? How do they regain that swagger, that confidence they had before this loss?
That's where leadership comes in. Guys like Tatum, Brown, Smart, they need to set the tone for the rest of the team. They need to lead by example, show their teammates that they're not fazed by this loss, that they're determined to get back on track.
So it's not just about the X's and O's. It's about having the right mindset. And it's up to the leaders of the team to make sure everyone has that.
Absolutely. And the coaching staff, too. They need to create the right environment, foster that sense of belief. Coach Mazzulla has a big job ahead of him.
And they have the Sixers coming up on Christmas Day. That's a big one.
Yeah. Talk about a high-pressure situation. But it's also a chance for them to bounce back, to prove that they're not going to let this one loss define them.
It's like this loss to the Magic, it almost makes that Christmas Day game even more interesting now.
Absolutely. It's a pivotal moment in their season.
Do they let this loss linger, or do they use it as fuel to come back even stronger?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that Christmas Day game just got a whole lot more interesting.
As we kind of wrap up this whole Celtics Magic situation, I keep thinking about that Sixers game on Christmas. It's a big one.
Huge. Yeah, it's a real test. Are they going to let this loss get to them, or are they going to use it as motivation?
Yeah, because the Sixers, they're not going to be, taking it easy on them. They're going to be coming in ready to pounce.
Oh, for sure. They'll be watching the film from this Magic game, looking for any weakness they can exploit.
So what can the Celtics do to prepare? I mean, we've talked about the turnovers, the offense, but is there anything else?
A lot of it's mental. you know? They got to have the right mindset going in. They can't let this loss get in their heads. Just got to believe in themselves, trust their system, and play with that, that same swagger they had earlier in the season.
So it's like they got to hit the reset button, forget about this Magic game, and approach the Sixers game like a fresh start. But how do you do that when, the pressure's on and everyone's watching to see how you respond?
That's where leadership comes in. Tatum, Brown, those guys, they got to step up and set the tone, show everyone that they're not dwelling on the past. They're focused on the present.
It's about, like, leading by example, right? Inspiring the rest of the team.
Exactly. And it's not just the players. Coach Mazzulla has a big role here, too. He's got to help the team regain their focus, their confidence, remind them what they're good at, help them learn from the mistakes, but not dwell on them.
Sounds like a tough job.
It is. Coaching at this level, it's not just about X's and O's. It's about, managing personalities, building trust, creating that winning culture.
Okay, so we've talked about the Celtics, what they need to do. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to the Magic for a second. I mean, was this win, was it just a fluke? Or is this a team we should be paying attention to?
I think it's safe to say the Magic they're a team on the rise. They got a lot of young talent. They play hard, and they're starting to believe in themselves. This Celtics win could be, a real turning point for them.
It's like they finally realized, hey, we can compete with these guys.
And they did it by playing smart, disciplined basketball. They didn't try to do too much. They stuck to the game plan. They capitalized on the Celtics' mistakes.
It's a good reminder that in the NBA, anything can happen. Upsets happen. Underdogs rise up. You can't take anything for granted.
Exactly. And while the Celtics are still, the favorites to win it all, this loss shows they're not invincible.
So heading into the holidays, it's looking like a pretty exciting race in the Eastern Conference.
It is, yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch how this all plays out.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon to break down more of the NBA's biggest matchups. Until then, happy holidays, everyone.